Hey, my name is Christine, and I'm an elopement photographer working in the Dolomites and across the Alps, and I'm one half of the team over at Me in the Mountains Photo, with the other half of our team being my husband, Scott, who's our videographer. I created this video guide to help you guys know the best places to elope in the Dolomites, along with everything else that you need to know about getting married in the Dolomites, most popular places to elope in the Dolomites, keeping in mind privacy, seclusion, and all those other things that go into helping you have a great experience out here. This video guide is designed to be listened also in like podcast format. Think of it in a way as if we were having a very one-sided one-to-one chat with one another. I know that you guys are busy, so this is a great way for you to get more of a general feel for the area, understand do's and don'ts, best time of year, general overview of locations, everything in between while you're also going about your own busy day or schedule. And I also have an accompanying blog post that goes into a lot of this information, plus other stuff all relevant to eloping in the Dolomites. So I'm really excited to share this with you today, and I hope it helps you get started as you're thinking about your adventure elopement. I just have to say the Dolomites are an absolutely amazing place to elope. Seriously, just do it if you're thinking about it. You will not regret it. There's truly no other place like the Dolomites. I've been all over, been to many, many mountains across the world, and the Dolomites are something spectacular. Okay, so diving right in here, some quick facts about the Dolomites. One, where are they located? The Dolomites are up in northeast Italy. There's quite a few mountains all across Italy, but the Dolomites specifically are in this northeast region that you see on the map. And in the Dolomites, they speak a couple of different languages. You're mostly going to run into Italian and actually German as well. It's quite the blend of cultures there. The good news is a lot of people do speak English, so if you don't speak Italian or German, you should have no trouble still getting around. If you're thinking about eloping in the Dolomites or visiting the Dolomites in general, the closest airports to fly into are the Venice airport and then the Innsbruck, Austria airport. Venice is the most direct way. You can get to a lot of locations in about 2 hours. If you're in Innsbruck, it really depends on where you're going. Most locations are 2 to 3 hours though, so it really just depends on your preferences and what your other travel plans are. Something worth noting as well is even though the Dolomites geographically, when you look at a map, seem like it's all in a fairly small area, it actually takes quite a bit of time to get around. There's a lot of driving up and over mountain passes, around the mountains, and honestly, Google Maps isn't always the most accurate either. So working with a local while you're planning for elopement can really help with that. Just make sure that you're getting the best information possible. And right here, you can see another map. This is kind of more zoomed in of the Dolomites. These are all the locations also that I'm mentioning here in this guide and along in the blog post that I have listed. So you can see zoomed in a lot more. And then on the right-hand side here, this is kind of like the main popular hotspot of the Dolomites where most people are visiting and traveling around. With that being said, you can see over here on the left-hand side, this is the Brenta Dolomites, still very much a part of the Dolomites, just a little less popular, but incredibly beautiful. So diving right in with the most popular places to elope. When it comes to where to elope in the Dolomites, you're going to find that there are kind of two distinct categories. The first is the most popular places to elope in the Dolomites, and the second is the best places to elope in the Dolomites. And what's popular and what's best can be very different things. Speaking as someone who is local to this area. And so on that note, before we even actually dive into the nitty-gritty of like the most popular places, I want to talk about privacy and what to think about while planning your elopement. So things you should know about the Dolomites right off the bat is that one, on social media, you've probably seen the Dolomites pop up, and it's pretty likely that you've come across certain locations that you're repeatedly told are a must visit. And while these locations are super beautiful, they can also be incredibly busy. And some of the most popular locations in the Dolomites, you might even be sharing with other wedding couples at the same time, should you plan your elopement in one of those spots. Well, some people don't mind this. If you are looking for a more intimate or unique experience, I would recommend shying away from some of these places. Another thing that I do want to throw out is what you see online of certain locations that look private is often due just to a variety of different circumstances, including creative shooting, Photoshop, or unique circumstances. Even like bad weather forecasts might have people deciding not to go out, and then the forecast ends up being beautiful or otherwise. All those things really do play a big role in what you see versus like the reality of being here. My top tips for having privacy during your elopement include one, thinking about opting for sunrise, sunset, those golden hour times when a lot of people either haven't woken up yet or are already out at dinner. Also, the shoulder months such as late June, September, and October are great times to consider eloping. With that being said, there are a few locations that are so popular that even if you're out at sunrise or sunset, it's still going to be really busy. Lago di Braies, which we're about to dive into, is one of those spots. That's something to keep in mind though. Another thing, as simple as it sounds, opting to save the hotspots for the vacation or like honeymoon portion of your trip and then going somewhere lesser known, yet still equally stunning for your elopement is a great way, I think, to get the best of both worlds. So you don't feel like you missed out on anything, but for your elopement day, you're really able to focus on having privacy, connection, and just being in a beautiful place without feeling like you're the center of attention because you're surrounded by tourists everywhere. Another option worth mentioning is that you can also consider a helicopter tour. Helicopter tours, the Dolomites are like kind of one of the best places to do it in the general Alps, like this region of Europe. Helicopter tours are a great option. They can whisk you away up to some really magical places that very few people are hiking, and so that's also something worth considering. Diving right in here to then the most popular places to elope with the Dolomites, and these aren't always necessarily the places that I would suggest you elope, but if you have your heart really set on it, here's what you should know. One is Lago di Braies, which is also called the Prager Wildsee. So also you're going to notice that I have listed both the Italian and the German name for some of these places. Lago di Braies is one of the most photographed places in the Dolomites, especially because it has this little boathouse, which I'll show you in a second. It's extremely picturesque. There's also brilliant blue water. Mountains are just stunning. It's very popular for a reason. And I'm just going to show you right now also an example of what that boathouse looks like. This was in fall. The autumn colors are amazing in this area. Cannot recommend autumn enough. But that's kind of like the real highlight of Lago di Braies. It's also incredibly easy to access. It's literally a drive-up location, although you do need to keep in mind, due to the popularity of it, parking can fill up quickly during the high season. Best times to go, May through October. And the thing that you need to know about Lago di Braies, a few different things. One, the best way to elope there is by renting the boathouse for a 90-minute sunrise slot. This gives you exclusive access to the boathouse and to rowboat rentals. And there's one exclusive 90-minute slot available each day between May and October. Something worth noting about that though is even though you do have a private rental, the boathouse isn't necessarily secluded. Everyone on the shoreline can still see you. Even at sunrise during the off season, I have literally stood on the shore with like 150 plus other people while a wedding couple is out there. So while the people on the shore can't see absolutely everything, it still isn't the most private thing ever either, if that's something that's of a concern to you. Something else is worth noting, I have heard horror stories from a few of my other photographer friends about having that rental space and other visitors trying to climb up onto the boathouse to still take their shot, even though they didn't have a rental slot booked. So you just never completely know what you're going to get there. Something else that people really don't realize is most people they walk up to Lago di Braies. It takes like 5 minutes from the parking lot and they see this one view with the boathouse, and it is really beautiful. But I highly recommend, if you have it in you, to walk around the rest of the lake. It's often overlooked, but equally stunning. The next place, another alpine lake we've got, is Lago di Sorapis. Now I've got the German name in there too. It's also a really milky blue, just brilliant lake surrounded by dramatic peaks everywhere. It's glacially fed. That's why it has that color. Accessibility wise, it actually requires like a 7 to 8-ish mile hike round trip, or like 13 to 14 kilometers or so. It's also a very steady uphill, and there are some exposed sections of the trail. And while they aren't like super hard or anything like that, there are cable secured spots for that bit. And the trail can feel a little bit like a conga line. Best times to go are like late June through October. It's also worth noting that the lake can mostly dry up in the fall. The fall colors are still really beautiful in this area though. Along the mountainsides, you'll get larches changing from yellow to orange. In terms of like crowds in general, despite the length of this hike, it still is an extremely popular one. And sunrise is your best bet if you want some degree of privacy, but it still is even popular at sunrise, either with people who are just speedy hikers and don't mind getting up for the sunrise, or two, there is a refugio / like mountain hut that you can stay at. And that's not too far from the lake. So a lot of people also stay at the hut and then are at the lake first thing in the morning. Another thing is, like, while there is room to move around at the lake, it's also like kind of limited in a way. Very beautiful. If you enjoy hiking, I think it's a hike worth doing. I feel like in terms of elopement locations though, it's fairly tricky, and I think there's much better places to elope. The next place on the list for the most popular places to elope in the Dolomites is going to be Alpe di Siusi. It's always a mouthful for me to say. I much prefer the German Sizer. This photo here is from fall. I love fall here. Summer is really the most popular time for people though. Highlights are you have these rolling hills. In the summer, you get wildflower meadows, and then you just have this super dramatic backdrop of towering mountains coming up from behind. Accessibility wise, you can take a cable car up there during daytime hours. It's actually a series of different cable cars that you can use to get up onto this high alpine plateau. And then you can also hike up without using the cable cars. There's like 1 or 2 different parking lots. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. You can also hike up without using the cable car, but parking is limited, and there are also some like parking restrictions on those lots because you have to take this road in and out that there's like a driving ban during certain hours. So it is a little bit tricky. Sunrise is kind of the only way that you can do that, and it's on a bit of a tight timeline as well, particularly if you aren't going in high summer, just to have enough daylight and everything. The best times of year to go are really like late June through October, which is like summer, and then into fall. And then January through March for winter. This is very popular as a ski destination too. Some things worth noting is that like these wildflower meadows are incredibly famous, but many of these meadow locations are actually quite delicate and they're on private land, so they shouldn't be stepped on. There are definitely rules and restrictions around that, so keep that in mind and be respectful of the locals. If you're looking and you're just like absolutely obsessed with the sizer, another great option is there are a couple of hotels up near where this viewpoint is, and if you want to be able to like get up there and not worry about the cable car hours, not worry about hiking, all of that, and also have some like nice meadows in front of the hotel that you can access, that is the way to go, and probably the only way that I'd really recommend eloping at Sizeral. The next most popular place in the Dolomites would be Seceda. Seceda is very distinctive. It has these panoramic mountain views in all directions and this incredible ridgeline that stretches just above all these grassy summits. It is an incredibly unique view. And you also probably have seen photos of Seceda if you've ever Googled the Dolomites once. Photos of Seceda are just as popular as photos of like Lago di Braies. Accessibility wise, you can get up there super easily. It's accessed via multiple cable cars. There's a chairlift. You can also hike up there. And then the best times of year to go are late June through October, and then January to March if you're looking at winter, which again is like there's a ski area up there. Things you definitely need to know about Seceda is one, it's extremely crowded. It's one of the most popular places in the Dolomites, and there's also been a lot of discussions about over-tourism there and other things. If you're thinking about eloping at Seceda, going at sunrise, doing a helicopter tour, or like an overnight adventure at one of the refugios, and then hiking the rest of the way up the mountain, because the refugio is like a little bit away down from the summit, those are the best ways to access the mountain. With that being said though too, there aren't like a lot of great spots to hold your ceremony up on Seceda. And one of the reasons for that is a lot of the viewpoints have been fenced off due to erosion, over-tourism, protecting alpine meadows, and all sorts of other things around that. So like the main best spot that you can hold a ceremony, if someone else wants to hold their ceremony there, it's a little tricky and it does put you in a pickle. It's possible, but if you have your heart set on that, know that you are potentially competing with other people who came up there for sunrise. Another thing that's really important to know that is as of late 2025, there is discussion on implementing a slot system to book times to visit Seceda, and that's likely going to go into effect for 2026. This was due to locals protesting over tourism, and also local farmers earlier in 2025 had installed a paid turnstile to limit access. It was taken down, but it might go back up again. So long story short, what you should know is Seceda is a little bit tricky. It's a changing, developing situation. And as pretty as it is, there are also a lot of other incredible, magical places that do not have the chaos associated with Seceda. I've also got to talk about, we've got Tre Cime di Lavaredo and then Cadini di Misurina. Again, Italian is not my strong suit, so I apologize there. I'm lumping these two together because they're actually accessed pretty much via the same parking lot, and a lot of the popular viewpoints are right next to each other. Something that is really highlighted here is that you have, again, these super dramatic, distinctive peaks that look exactly what, if you have ever thought about the Dolomites and you're like, I wonder what they look like, this like kind of checks all the boxes for that. It's incredibly popular as a photo op. And the other thing that makes it so popular with people is that a lot of the locations range from anything from drive up to light hiking. So it's pretty easy to access. There are definitely moderate hikes too if you're looking for something a little less busy. And it's also a popular helicopter landing location. And while it's cool for a helicopter landing, I don't necessarily recommend doing a helicopter tour here because you can also get up so easily via the parking lot. So You won't necessarily get privacy depending on where your heli guide decides to land. Best time of year to go, July through October. Oh, and I also wanted to show you guys before I forget, right down here, we have another photo just showing off. So this couple in this first picture where they're standing, if you turn the other direction, literally just look the other way, this is what you see on the other side. So that's if you've probably seen one or both of these views anyways. Things to know is that if you elope here, even at sunrise, you're probably going to see other wedding couples too. For some people, that's okay. There is quite a bit of space to spread out, but we've run into that ourselves. We quite literally came up here, I think it was with this couple actually, and another couple had set up and they had an arch that they had left up and all sorts of decorations and other things. And our couple was not able to go and take a spot in one of the more popular spots because of all this decorations and other stuff that had been left up. It's definitely not leave no trace friendly. Anyways, that's just the reality of this place. Also, the most popular photo viewpoint, sometimes you even have to wait in line to take a photo there, depending on what time of day you go. Some couples don't mind that. A lot of people I find aren't looking for that type of experience. Due to over-tourism in the area as well, as of 2025, an online reservation system is now required to drive up to the parking area. Reservations can be made up to 30 days in advance, and you're locked into then a time slot with that. So just one more thing to consider if you want to live in this area. This is one of those places that I don't 100% say don't do it, because it still is possible to have a semi-private experience if you're willing to like hike a bit or find the right spot. It's not as like tight and closed in as some of the other spots, but there are a lot of other pretty places as well. Last but not least on this list of most popular places in the Dolomites, we have Val di Funes. This is like this quaint little village nestled among rolling meadows. There's towering summits. I mean, all the Dolomites is just towering summits, but you get these picturesque churches as well that are quite iconic. There's two churches in particular you'll regularly see photographed of this location. And then it's very accessible as well. Views of the village and these little churches are accessed via light walks of like 1 to 1.5 miles max. Super duper easy. And you can go here year round. And something that a lot of people don't know though until they show up here is that even though you have these amazing postcard worthy views that are great for landscape photography, it's not at all a suitable spot for elopements. At this location, actually, like there's a couple of different meadows to access these viewpoints, and all of those are fenced off. They're private. They have signs saying, please do not walk on them. So if you do see photos of people out in these meadows with this view, they have jumped. They've either ignored the signs or they have jumped over the fencing to take those photos. There are some great hiking elopement locations that leave from the like general vicinity of where the village is, but in terms of actually eloping here with this view, I don't recommend it. Okay, now that we've gotten that all out of the way, we've talked about the most popular places to elope, which if you can't tell, in my personal opinion, don't necessarily make the best places to elope. Now we're going to dive into the actual best places, which I'm assuming is what you're here for. And on that note, I don't believe that there's a truly like best place to get married in the Dolomites, because there's no one size fits all location. Every couple has a different vision on how they want to spend their day. And because of this, I give all of my book couples in-depth location help by creating custom location guides. And those guides take into account everything from what types of scenery you want, how many locations you want to go to, how little or how much you want to walk, hike, the overall accessibility, seasonality, literally all of the things. And so this section is really about creating a good jumping off point to figure out where you like, what general vibe you like for your Dolomites wedding. So if you're looking for something more in-depth, location scouting assistance is something we include in all of our elopement packages. And honestly, it's one of my favorite parts of being an elopement photographer, being able to show off these places that I get to call home or get to regularly explore and share these lesser known places, especially, is something I just love doing. It really fills up my cup. So here I'm going to dive in kind of just to more some general topics versus the nitty gritty of every location. And that's because there's so many different ways that these locations can be done. But first on the list for best places to elope is mountain passes. There's so many mountain passes across the Dolomites, and something I love about mountain passes, especially in the Dolomites, is that it's an amazing way to get easy access to just out of this world scenery that isn't tied to cable car operating hours. It makes a great option if you're looking for golden hours and sunrise sunset, stargazing up here. There's generally more privacy and seclusion overall. And the Dolomites mountain passes aren't super long, crazy drives that are remote. You're normally well connected by the villages too. And so it's just a great, easy way to get awesome scenery. Best time of year for the passes is late June through October, which is like that summer to fall season. And then January to March, quite a few of the passes are open in winter to access the ski areas. But you should definitely be comfortable with winter driving and have chains on if you're going to go that route. And then I've just got right here a list of some of my favorite mountain passes. Say Passo Falzarego is consistently one of my favorites. And also I'll say Passo Fedaya is also a really cool area along with Passo Rolla. Honestly though, at all these mountain passes, why I can't give necessarily specific locations is you can like pull out and go a short distance on any number of like dozens of trails up top and just have incredible views. It's just endless, the possibilities, honestly. And then there are also a lot of beautiful alpine lakes in the Dolomites. I do want to throw out kind of while I'm going through this that if you're really wanting to put a heavy focus on mountain lakes during your elopement, I don't necessarily recommend the Dolomites for it. I think places just over the border in Austria, for example, or even in Switzerland or Germany could be a lot better of a fit for you for pretty mountain lakes, but the Dolomites definitely has some real stunners as well. The best time to think about an alpine lake elopement in the Dolomites is normally like June and July for some of the smaller lakes that are like higher up in the mountains, because some of these lakes do dry up as we get into like the hotter season and the snow melt is gone. And then June through October for a lot of the larger alpine lakes, like this one on the left, the Durensee, is perfectly fine. You can go to this spot actually in winter too. So here's a list of some of my favorite alpine lakes that you can think about eloping at outside of Lago di Braies, which has already been mentioned, in Lago Sorapis. There are definitely some gorgeous places that you can go in the Dolomites if you're wanting that mountain lake vibe. Next up, we have cable car accessible locations. One big thing you're going to find across the Dolomites and also throughout the neighboring Alps is going to be there are so many mountains that have cable cars. In part, it's due to the infrastructure of skiing and everything else. But in general, these are operating like mostly year round, as in summertime, fall, and then again in the winter. Perks to utilizing cable cars and chairlifts when you're in the Dolomites is that the cable car system and chairlift system is incredibly extensive, and it makes accessing mountaintop scenery very easy. You don't have to climb a mountain to be on top of one, which is great. Things you need to know is that the cable cars typically run from around like 8 or 9 a.m. to 4 or 5 p.m. depending on the location, and this means during summertime, cable car accessible locations aren't possible for sunrise or sunset unless you stay at a refugio on top of the mountain, because a lot of times you can take these cable cars up and then there's one of these refugios / mountain huts that'll be near the top of the cable car, so then you can stay there overnight and then you could like cable car pack down in the morning when things open back up so you can enjoy that sunrise sunset time, which also just allows for greater privacy overall too. Best times of year are normally late June through early October, again summer through fall, in part because the cable cars are not open fully year-round, so that's when most things are open. And then again, January through March if you're looking for a winter experience. And then I've got here some of my favorite cable cars and chairlifts that are worth checking out. If you are thinking about holding a small wedding or a micro wedding in the Dolomites, it is also an amazing place to do that. And when people think about wedding venues, they're wondering a couple things, especially when it comes to planning a micro wedding. Is one, do I need a venue for my elopement or micro wedding? No, you don't. For elopements with fewer than 8 people involved, you generally don't need to book a venue to hold your ceremony. But if you're looking at a party of 8 or more, or plans to set up chairs and decorations, stuff like that, you should definitely look into securing a small venue. The nice thing is out here that there are plenty of venues that are perfectly suited for like 8 to 15 plus people. It doesn't need to be a big group. And venues include everything from castles to quaint chalets. We've seen drive-up venues, cable car accessible spots, and hike-in only spots even. So there's quite literally something for everyone. And the cost does widely vary, but you can expect anywhere from like 1,000 to 4,000 plus euro for a few hour rental. And that may include stuff like basic setup, drinks, post-ceremony appetizers, anything like that. And in my guide as well, my blog post guide as well, I'll mention, I do have a list with links to some of those small wedding venues that we recommend. Also, on that note, while you're thinking about places to elope, do you need permits? Are there any rules, restrictions, stuff that you should know about? One, you don't generally need a permit for your elopement location. Most places you can go to freely. With that being said, there are occasionally places that are private land, especially in the valleys, stuff owned by farmers. So be respectful and conscientious of that. And working with a local can also help you with figuring out that. 2, drone restrictions. And this is actually like the biggest thing you need to keep in mind when eloping in the Dolomites, because most of the Dolomites are comprised of the UNESCO World Heritage Sites. There's quite a few of them. And then there's a lot of other nature protection zones. And these are all no-fly zones. We see people regularly flying illegally at these locations. I'm just going to say, like, we always strive to respect those local regulations. There's quite a few in place. We recommend choosing a videographer who can make a great film regardless of drone photography or videography, so you can put your focus on selecting a location based on the scenery, the accessibility, and privacy first. Last but not least, as you're thinking about your Dolomites elopement and where to elope, here's some of our top recommendations on where to stay. These are the top towns that we think that couples should look into for their elopement that can make a great base. 1, Colfosco and Corvara and Badia. These are 2 villages that are right next to each other. They're well connected to a variety of popular and off the beaten path locations. It's also more wallet friendly than some other towns in the area, such as anything over near Val Gardena, but it's only like a 35-minute drive over the pass. So that's a great option. Cortina is another great choice. I personally adore Cortina. It's on the pricier side, but this town is perfectly situated at the heart of multiple mountain passes, so it makes getting around the Dolomites extremely easy. Also, my favorite pizza ever is located in Cortina. Last but not least, San Martino. I think if you're looking for a quiet Dolomites elopement experience, this town gives you access to some of the most beautiful hiking that I've seen in Italy without nearly as many crowds as other nearby regions, which to me makes it really shine. The peaks are, it's like hard to describe, because when you're looking at the Dolomites, everywhere it's just craggy peaks, but some of them really just hit different. And honestly, no matter where you go in the Dolomites, I will say, like, pretty much every corner you drive around, it's a new view, a new crazy looking mountain. It's truly otherworldly. I've never been anywhere else quite like it. And so if you're thinking about a great mountain destination to elope at, where you know distinctly, like, oh, that is this place and it couldn't be mistaken for somewhere else, the Dolomites is a great place for that. I think the Dolomites is one of the most friendly places you can elope at if you're holding like a small destination wedding or a micro wedding or an elopement with guests. The food is really good. I mean, who can complain about Italian food? And last but not least, of like all the mountain destinations that you can elope at in the general Alps/Dolomites region, I really think that this area, as in the Italian Dolomites, is like the most accessibility friendly, where you can get out of this world views without a ton of effort. And while it's great for hiking and via ferratas and climbing and all these other things, if you just love being in nature and don't want to haul all the way up a mountain, you can still get that in the Dolomites and enjoy sunrise, sunset, and everything that the beauty of this place has to offer. I hope that you guys have found this guide helpful and as a great jumping off point as you begin starting to plan your own Dolomites elopement. I know it can feel really overwhelming at first, and so I just want you to know that there are other ways that you can begin that planning process. If you're just wondering, where in the world do I actually need to start? You're always welcome to reach out via the link that I'll leave in the bio below. You can fill out our contact form, and then you can always schedule a free, no strings attached consultation call with myself or my husband and I, and we'd love to help you get started, begin narrowing things down, and start thinking about what your Dolomites elopement can look like. I know that especially if you're an American or, someone coming from abroad to elope in the Dolomites, it can feel really intimidating trying to figure out where to start, what information do I actually need to know. And as someone who lives locally to this area, it's something I help every single couple do. All of my book couples, I'm able to share English-speaking vendor suggestions. It's really like the best places to get married, down to like the nitty-gritty details. If you're wondering about even hotels to stay at, travel tips, all these other things, that's something that we give every single one of our book couples so that they can make sure that they have a smooth, stress-free, fun, one-of-a-kind experience in the Dolomites. We'd love to help you get started, so feel free to reach out below.